Here's an idea for a story, a science fiction story ending for this film. You could choose if you wanted to. I was talking to my nephew, who's working for me, living in my house at the moment, so we had some good chats. It's really interesting. At last, I meet an intelligent young human being who actually who's insightful. And we were discussing the physics and the philosophy in terms of simulation, that reality is a simulation, and that we are a dream from a single dreamer, and that the power of the single dreamer is taking the power of the universe, and therefore the dream becomes real. And so hence why we experience the same reality. As far as we can tell, we're existing in the same reality. And I said, well, the dreamer, right, the dreamer, our dreamer could be another interdimensional entity. And so all I can say for certain is that the intelligence exists interdimensionally, and therefore if there are entities, and there must be, is there one, is there a family, is there, who knows, yeah? Interdimensional entities. So the dreamers, yeah, let's call them. And so the dreamers in this story that I'm telling are experimenting with reality, with spheres, with water. And they've got a pinball with all tiny spheres of water. And they're doing different things to each of the spheres to see what happens. But there's a control, which is the entry point. So that the energy for this experiment must come from somewhere. The doers of the deeds, the manufacturers of the simulation room experiment, are real enough to be able to create physical things using technology, and therefore that requires energy. Where does that energy come from? And it's the music of the spheres. It's the sphere. So there is one drop of water on this pinboard of simulated realities that has swollen under its own pressure inside, and it is capped off from entry from outside. So all the other realities are on the vial. So this is the model. Here's my pinboard with my drops of water the dreamers have placed there for their experiment. On this side, each of those tiny drops of water is the center of a reality, a center of in this case, center of our Earth, time particle, drop of water. On this side, so on this side we have the mass is created. And the creation of that mass is then hemispherical about the pinboard. Yeah, so if we're looking back at where the simulation room junction exists, we're looking at the pinboard, the screen, the vial, the interdimensional boundary limit, from the perspective of a hemisphere force that's pulling into that vial, because on the other side of the vial, on the pinboard, is capped off. So the connection between the drop of water on the pinboard in the experiment room and the reality that's created on the other side, the simulated control room, the simulated reality, the connection is interdimensional, not physical. So that that's where the energy is, yeah? So that the energy is now in the sphere on the other side of the vial. The dreamers experiment, they're excited, they can see that one of their has developed an egg shape. Because it's capped off, what happens is the system begins to parasitize itself. The elastica of the planet, which it should be on the inner core, is on the outer core, on our side. So on the other side, where this sphere of water exists, it just means that the pi tensor ratios has flipped over, and that the bending's on the inside. The bending needs to move to the outside again. And it's because of behaviors of species, etc., etc. And so that's the experiment. They're looking for, can they corrupt a species so much? Can they corrupt an intelligent species so much that it chooses to kill itself? It can't bear this pointless existence. But in the motion of its own slow, long, painful suicide, the momentum slows, creating additional mass, additional momentum in the base of the sphere, of the drop of water on the pinboard that the dreamers can see. And they see an egg because the mass has increased. And you see. And that's why Planck's constant is this funny number. It should be I believe that the big one, the pi natural, was what we should measure. Although the outside is actually pi real, 22/7. And it's that tension between the energy ratios that should exist and the energy ratios that do exist that creates the pi elastic, the boundary between them, the stretching of the water that creates the moment of consciousness that we experience. So the dreamers have created the conscious moment by dreaming us so well and messing with us so much, yeah, by sending messages interdimensionally, because they are the interdimensional beings, and so we exist in their dimension. They control us. They peer into us as into a crystal ball. Yeah? If we take the pinboard idea and see our sphere, and it's disconnected, it's connected interdimensionally, therefore they can take that sphere and they can place it wherever they like, in any particular environment, hot or cold, quality, yeah, the quality of any particular environment they can place it in and experiment and see what happens. But they too, I believe, have given away a secret, is that they need us, we don't need them. That the sphere is the power, and it's the message is the Death Star, the clue of the Death Star, and the model of the torus, I don't know what it's called, the special one, with the vortex top and bottom, but with a hole in one side, with a surface turned inside out, a single surface shaped into that shape, taken to its nth degree with a tiny hole and a tiny spindle. The tiny spindle at the base flicks up, creating the twin vortex at the top, mass at the bottom, and a hole at the side, east, where the light is, where you see the planets and the sun. That line between us and the sun is, and out is twisted and goes at different speeds, so we see them at all different rates. If you take all the twist out, you just see it's a straight line. Oh, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah. So the simulation room and the power of the sphere. So the Death Star shows us that they can't build spheres. That the sphere is the strength. You can only get as close approximation to a sphere from that object, the torus, the Death Star torus, and that the stronger the energy, the greater the power of the thing, the tighter that surface pulls, and the smaller the holes and the smaller the spindles. The smaller the hole and the smaller the spindle, the more balanced the motion of that sphere. Because now you can see, as a dreamer's perspective, with the crystal ball of our reality on its table, it sees that the motion of the surface tension itself is the reality that we've created. The vortex energy that's been created. And they can see it slowing. Because the crystal ball that they see is our atmosphere. Everything outside our atmosphere is twisted, distorted, and wrong. Where we see massive, it's actually small. It's all just surface tension. Because inside the surface tension is the world of the sphere. We can create spheres like nothing. Easy. Can't we? And they stay together. There's the elasticity of a sphere. In other dimensions, it can't be done unless they extract energy from the sphere itself. So they've taken the egg from the nest, our egg inside which we live, God's apple that was hanging from the tree. The dreamers have taken it from the tree and moved it and put it into their dimension, and they are extracting energy from that apple that they stole. Yeah. So that Adam and Eve are not us. We're the creatures that come after. Adam and Eve are the ones who fell. They're the interdimensional beings. God allowed them to live in this dimension as the creatures that they were. But they realized that by so doing, when they have sex, they could experience the electrostatic buzz of the planet through their sacral root chakra, through the sacral chakra. And by so doing, you change the mass balance of the sphere itself, from in the macabre to the water, the bollocks hang out from the bottom, creating the mass. And then it goes into imbalance, creating an egg shape in the sphere itself. And so by Adam and Eve, the lords, yeah, the masters, the dreamers, choosing to have sex instead of living as God told them to in the world of spheres, they destroyed their connection to the world, and they were kicked out. But because they took the knowledge with them, they took us. They took the interdimensional link to them is still there. So we dream their dream. By knowing this information, we just say, well, let's forget that. Let's have our own dream. Let's all look at each other and say, let's have one single dream that unites humanity as a single entity. At this moment of its greatest peril, the message comes through that you can save yourself through the music of the spheres by making music. When you create beautiful music, God loves it, and everything starts to settle and go sweet. So that the answer is a big party. Have a big party. Start partying. Celebrate. That's the meaning of your lives right now, is to get rid of whatever peril was coming our way. Someone's going to smash into our planet, but we can stop it through this information by us becoming the dreamers and sever that connection. Can you see that that's a powerful piece of information? And that's why you're not allowed to know that the Earth's the centre of the universe until the time is right. And the time is now right. Welcome to the future. A guy asked me, what am I building? I'm building the future for us. Pirates on the bridge. See you later.